everyone. Welcome to our third interview on resilience. As this month of May is really Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm very, very excited for our interview today. I'm going to let him explain who he is, but this is just something that I've been really looking forward to, and feel that so many people listening today are going to take away some really great tips and skills in this ever-changing and uncertain world that we're living in right now. And so welcome, and tell me, what is your name, and tell me about what you do.
Well, my name is Dr. Dan Reidenberg, and I am the executive director of an organization called SAVE, Suicide Awareness Voices of Education. Our website is save.org, and that's how most people think of us, as save.org. We are a national nonprofit organization working to help people understand more about suicide and ultimately try to prevent suicide, as well as help people understand about brain illnesses and mental health issues. And you think you're excited. I am really excited to be here with you. It's an honor for me to be here with you. You are an inspiration, not to so many people, to me, and many of the friends that have connected you and I. When I read your program and your curriculum and saw some of the things that you've done, I've just always had so much respect for you. So it's really great for me to be here, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And how long have you been with SAVE?
I've been with SAVE for about 20 years. I was actually a friend of the original founder of SAVE back in the mid 80s. Before SAVE even existed, we were friends. We used to go around the Twin Cities to different health fairs and things like that, and talk about these issues in hospitals that I worked at, and clinics. SAVE and I would present together to help healthcare professionals better understand the concepts of suicide, the realities, the myths, the conceptions, how to better assess suicide. So I have been around since the beginning, and for a very long time. It feels like I've lost a lot of hair, and what hair I have left is to turn colors on me, but it's been a long time.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because SAVE has just been such a wonderful organization that has that we've been partnering with, that we have been working with to get both my keynote message and my our curriculum SAVE certified, which was such a wonderful thing, knowing that our message, both my speaking message and our curriculum, were safe and could help people. And that was something that we were so excited to have, that certification. And so again, it's just so thank you for your kind words in what you were saying earlier, and it has been so wonderful getting to know you more and working more with your organization. And so Dan, or Dr. Dan, why are you passionate about mental health awareness and suicide prevention?
That's a great question, and I think it's because mental health and mental health really affects all of us, right? Our mental well-being, how we are doing, affects everybody all the time, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. None of it has to be a bad thing. Whether you're talking about when somebody's doing really well and feeling well and functioning well, or if somebody's struggling or just having a hard time, or somebody who's really in a crisis, life has all of these moments to them. None of us are immune from that. And so because mental health and mental wellness affects all of our lives, it just in different degrees, in different ways, at different times, it's always been really, really important to me. I've always been someone who's wanted to be there for somebody who is not doing very well at the moment. And again, that doesn't mean that they were mentally ill, or excuse me, or that they might have been suicidal. Of course, I've been there in those situations too, many times. But when you think about the fact that we go through life and we all have ups and downs, We all have struggles. And some of those things, which is the kind of the basis of what we're talking about here today when we talk about resilience, but we all have these ups and downs. And those things and how we get through them change us, and they help us, not just through that particular issue or time or crisis, but through the future ones too. So mental health to me is really important because it's about how we're doing. And we all have that. We all have how are you doing? And it's not just about um, I hurt my arm or my leg, or I've got a headache today, or I've got a cold. That we all know that too. Mental health is about really kind of how we doing emotionally, and we all have that. It's always been important.
Wonderful. Yeah, that is so true. And just so well put. And I think that's so important, as I think people think, oh, that's for other people, or I don't struggle with that. But it is, it's a human thing. Our brains are connected to our bodies. And we have to realize that it's okay to not be okay. And that we have to look at how we're doing. You can't just keep going through the motions and stuffing it, pushing it down, because I did that after my accident, and I definitely learned that that did not work, that we have to work through our feelings and ask ourselves how we're doing, and get help when we need it.
No, that's exactly right. And it is one of those things that again is so inspiring about you is how you were able to approach that, right? And a life experience that most don't ever experience, and yet you did, you confronted it. And instead of kind of shriveling up with those feelings and just turning inward, you were able to take the inward and go external with it and help people with it. And that's what we need to do with all of the kinds of emotions that we have. Now, we find it very easy to do that when it's a good thing, right? If somebody's getting married, or they're having a child, or they just got a big promotion, whatever, those things, we don't seem to have a problem at all sharing those kinds of things with people, right? We're willing to shout those things from the rooftop. But if we're having a hard time, if we're just really struggling with whether it's finances, or we're struggling with kids or spouses or people at our work, or we're just struggling with what's going on in the environment, we are not out there talking about it to everybody. And when we don't talk about it, we have risks. And everybody has different levels of risks. But ultimately, you don't talk about the things that are in that garbage can, as we were just talking about, it's going to fill up. And none of us like garbage cans. They smell, they're not good. They got old stuff in them. We've got to find a way to get rid of some of those things so that we can move forward in life.
Ugh, I love that analogy. That is so, so true, and so powerful. I mean, because when you do think about, lots of times we don't think about what that looks like, and it does. I know when my garbage can filled up, it did not look pretty, and it was awful. But afterwards, it was like, oh, oh my goodness, I would have done this sooner if I would have known how much better I would feel. I just was trying to be so strong for everybody else, and I couldn't do it anymore. And so these are great. For those of you who are listening today, please, please, please take inventory. Look at what's going on in your life, and really just ask yourself, what's in that garbage can? Because we've all got it. We've all got them. But taking the time to reflect on that and getting the help, reaching out to someone, even getting professional counseling is something that's so, so important. So next question, how would you describe resilience in 1 or 2 words?
Well, the classic way we talk about resilience is your ability to bounce back. That's ultimately the way in which we think about resilience. So I would say in a couple of words, it's bouncing back. But I think that in some ways that oversimplifies the concept of resilience. Resilience is your ability to bounce back or get through. There's 2 more words for you: bounce back, get through. Either way you look at it. The idea behind resilience is, how do we take life's adversities and deal with them? Not put them away, not try to minimize them, not try to make them something else. How do we actually deal with life's adversities? And that might sound scary to some people, and it might sound like, why do I don't do that? Because you hear life's adversities. Well, the reality is that life always presents us with lots of challenges and opportunities, and sometimes adversities. Those adversities, if we reframe just a minute in our head, we change the perspective on what adversity could mean. It could change everything. Let me give you an example. You're going along somewhere, and an animal jumps out right in front of you, right? Scares you. You have no idea what's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to attack you, if it's what is it, but that's adversity, right? You have a fight or flight response that's innate in you. Okay, take away that fight or flight for a second. You've got to deal with the adversity. Now, most of us are going to say we want to get away from that animal that potentially could hurt us. And so we have to think about getting away from that animal is actually the opportunity to get better, to get safer, to a different place than where the adversity was that we were facing that animal. Whether we really did or didn't face adversity, because we had no idea if the animal was going to attack us or not. The idea here is that resilience is your ability to survive and cope and thrive. And we've got to remember that thriving piece, because that's the opportunity that takes us away from adversity, which scares us. The word scares us, but we don't have to be afraid, because if it gets us to a better place, whether it's safer, smarter, healthier, better, then we're going to be fine. That's what resilience is about. How do you do that? How do you navigate through the things that happen to you in the world?
That's wonderful. Oh my goodness. I love that analogy. And kind of along the same lines, what type of skills would you recommend for someone looking to build really their level of resilience?
So this is a really interesting question about, what skills should somebody have that would give them a sense of resilience, right? So in that example of something jumping out in front of you, it could be a person, it could be an animal, anything, right? We want to be able to think fast, right? And think fast on your feet, right? And some people are better at that than others, right? So we want to practice that skill. We literally need to learn how to respond in different situations. And so practicing thinking fast and thinking on your feet is a good skill. A whole different kind of skill that helps build resilience is about coping, right? What do you do to cope with difficult situations? And that means knowing when you feel anger, here's what you do. When you feel sad, here's what you do. Here, when you're frustrated, here's what you do. These are coping skills, right? So the more that we can know how we feel and how we respond to those feelings and have actual steps that we can take rather than just doing it kind of on the fly. All of a sudden now I'm somebody really made me angry and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that feeling. The more we can know those feelings, identify them, and have a response plan in place, we're going to be much better off. That's going to build our resilience. Another thing about resilience that's kind of related to coping skills, but a little different, is about communication. The more we can communicate what's going on for us, and of course, you're a communicator, you do it all the time. Communication not only involves external, talking, speaking, getting things out, but communication is about listening too, and knowing and hearing and understanding and responding to what's coming in. So the better our communication skills are, that's a good thing. I would say another thing around what builds resilience, skills that build resilience, is about how to deal with conflict. Most of us don't deal with conflict very well. Most of us don't like conflict. And yet, conflict doesn't have to be seen as a negative. Conflict can be something that helps us, again, get to a better place. It's how we do that conflict that makes a difference. If we go into something that creates conflict for us or angers us or upsets us, and we just want to fight back, right? That fight back response, it might resolve that one issue for you because the other person may not want to fight back. That doesn't mean you've really done very good. You've not been very helpful and you haven't really learned anything. You've just punched back. So learning how to deal with our own conflict, internal and external, is a really, really good kind of skill set to build resilience.
Those are all great, great skills and great advice, because it is, I've seen how all of them have helped me in my journey. It helped me throughout in other adversities that I've been through, other times when, and I would, like you said, conflict is not something that we enjoy, and it's not something that we're really taught how to work through. And I saw that when I got married. I grew up where there wasn't conflict. I mean, it just was shoved under the rug. And so I didn't realize that in confrontation and in conflict, that actually, when my husband and I worked through things, I actually loved him more afterwards, because we could work through it and I could see his side and I could see where I feared it. Afterwards, I was like, wow, I'm really glad that we worked through that. And I'm really glad. So yeah, just like you said, kind of changing your perspective on how you view conflict, and realizing that you come out stronger, your relationships come out stronger. It's just a better thing all around. So it's just wonderful. Now, when it comes to resources with resilience, what do you recommend for people to get help, especially with the current crisis that we're in?
A lot. Obviously, there's lots of resources in our communities, right? You have everything from support groups, just kind of general support groups. You have professional providers, mental health providers. So you have therapists and psychologists and social workers and marriage and family therapists and psychiatrists. You have just your general doctor, your medical doctor can be a really great resource for help for a lot of different things. But let's expand that a little bit in terms of thinking about who could be part of our support system, our resources around getting us through. That can be anybody who you go to for taking care of your hair and your nails. It can be a barber. It can be somebody that cleans your house or that walks your dog. People that are part of your life are part of your support system. And we often bucket people, right? And we think, okay, well, I've got this problem, so it's only this group of people that can help me, when actually somebody else might have a really great perspective that we don't even think about. And we do this often with friends. We know our friend, right? And I was doing a training a couple of months ago, and I came up with an activity in the training that was, who's your hero? And I asked everybody in the training, identify who's your helper, who's your enabler, who's the one that provides you opportunities and options, right? And who's your rescuer? Because we know people in our lives, and we tend to go to them for specific things because of who they are. But if we don't think about those people outside of kind of a professional realm, we miss those perspectives. So the more that we can think about resources, not just in, this organization, because there's lots of them that are great, or this group, there's lots of them that are great, or this bucket of people, that's great too. There's lots of other people beyond that. Those are all good resources. Now, when it comes to things online, that's a really tricky thing, because there are a lot of great resources online. The problem is that there's also a lot more that's not good online. So I always tell people, be careful about what you're finding online. Make sure it is a good site that you're going to. It's a vetted site, that it's reputable. So if you're looking at a nonprofit organization, right, and they need to be approved, an approved charity. They should have standards that they meet and they're accredited by. Find ones that are reputable. If you want data or you want some kind of statistical information, make sure you use government websites. Those are good resources. And people are like, well, I don't like data, but sometimes data helps put things in perspective for us. You know, where we hear that, you know, there's 1 in 8 kids that struggle with a mental health issue. Well, that's true. That means we need to know those numbers for our kids and the kids that we work with. So it's really important when you're looking at resources. It doesn't matter if it's that professional bucket group or your friend bucket group or your family bucket group or at the website, to make sure that you're open to lots of different things, because otherwise we tend to have tunnel vision on resources and we think we can only use one for one thing. But think about this. If you were going to buy a car, there's lots of options out there. There's not just one. And if you want to think about a car, you could think about a car or a truck. You could think about a lot of different ways to think about getting a car that's going to get you where you need to go. It's the same thing when it comes to building resilience and building support and building coping skills. It's about having a breadth of people out there.
And that is so important because I do think, oh, this is all such great information. But it's so true because I think we do get tunnel vision and we tend to want to go to the people that we feel comfortable with. Maybe that barber or that hairstyle is maybe we don't feel all that comfortable, but I have just found by opening up that not only do people, well, hairstylists are great listeners, barbers are great listeners, but you start to realize and you can build a stronger bond with them. But then you also, I've just seen in opening up and sharing with others that aren't necessarily in my quote unquote, tight group, that then they share, well, yeah, I've been through that and this is what I did. And you, again, are just, like you said, expanding that bucket of resources and friendships and just people that you can talk to, because it is so important. And I say this every time I speak, that we just have to know that we're not alone, that there are so many people that care about you. And we have to expand those resources so that we know who those people are when we are struggling and even in the good times. So we all need each other. Mm-hmm. So that is so great. So in what ways do you teach resilience through the work that you do, and why is this important to you?
Well, resilience is your ability to kind of survive and get through these difficult times. And in my work, when we're talking about, mental health issues and mental illnesses and even mental wellness, it's really important to be able to talk about these concepts of how do you get through them, how do you survive them, so that people don't continue walking down the continuum in going darker and getting more in trouble or struggling more with their illness and letting the illness take over. We know that the earlier you intervene, the better off you are, the more likely you are to prevent something from getting worse. So for me, in the trainings that we do and the education that we provide, even in the resources that we create, we're always trying to be upfront. We're trying to get more out there sooner. The sooner we get that information out as to how to do these things and where to do these things and with who you do these things, the better off you're going to be long term. When somebody is struggling with a mental health challenge, it kind of narrows your ability to do other things, right? So when somebody's really, really depressed, they might be able to function, they might be able to go to school, they might be able to work, but they're struggling with it as opposed to when they're not, right? And so their capacity to enjoy life and experience life is much narrower. When somebody is struggling, we're not teaching prevention so much. We're trying to respond and help prevent things from getting worse, but we're trying to help them get through. When somebody's in a crisis, we're trying to save their life, right? But it's that upstream kind of intervention. It's very early on. Let's talk to kids about these concepts long before they might ever have any problems, might have to use these resources when they face these challenges in life. So in our work, all of the pieces around resilience and strength and support and coping really has to be embedded in everything that we do from that upstream approach.
That's awesome. And in what ways do you think resilience skills benefit people?
Resilient skills benefit people because they help them not only be better prepared for when things are going to happen, but help them get through them when they are in them. And again, when you're in things, when you're in that kind of crisis mode, or you're in that just response mode because stress is built up, even just think about like the holiday times, right? Not this last year, this COVID holiday season, but just think about normal holiday seasons. People are really stressed out, and they might think of it as a positive stress, right? Because they're looking forward to family and friends and good food and gifts and just spending time together and time away from work. It's still a stress. People get stressed about what gifts they're going to buy, and stressed about what if they get a gift that they really didn't like, and they get stressed about money issues. They get stressed about how many places they've got to go. So even though we think of it as a positive stress, it's still stress. So the more that we can help people understand early in advance of going into something like that, how to be strong and how to get through it, and what's going to help them best through that, that will make the process much easier for them, much more enjoyable for them. So I think resilience, these kinds of skills benefit people, not just in getting through, but being able to prevent something from really, really taking an unfortunate turn.
That's that's perfect. Wow. And it's so true. It's these are skills that we can use every day, every day. And they benefit in so many ways. And what areas of hope are you seeing through the work that you do?
Well, we see hope every day. We have to see hope. I mean, running a suicide prevention organization where you're constantly dealing with loss and grief and sorrow, and if it's not that, it's worry, right? We're worried about somebody who might die, or who is in a crisis and needs help right now. That's hard to find hope. So I find hope in families that have lost someone. I find hope in their resilience and their ability to get through such a devastating kind of loss. So they do kind of inspire me to keep doing this. I find hope in that we're learning more about the brain all of the time, and how the brain works and where it struggles and what it does to people. I find hope in that we're starting to have more conversations about mental health and mental illness and mental wellness, and we need to help people understand it. It's a very, very difficult concept. Um, uh, People talk about you had mentioned earlier here, it's okay to not be okay, and it's one of these catchphrases right now, not just because of Mental Health Awareness Month, but NAMI uses this and they use it all over, and to be honest, I have a real hard time with it, and I'll tell you why. It is okay to not be okay, only to a certain place. Mental illnesses, they happen, and they happen frequently. Some of them are very common. That doesn't mean they're normal. And we can't normalize mental illnesses to the place that people go, oh, well, it's just my depression, so I don't have to think about it. Think about a common cold. People think to themselves, well, it's just a cold, I'm stuffed up, I'm not going to do anything about it. Well, for the most part, for 99% of people, that's true, and it'll go away. But for some people, that cold will get worse. And for some, it's actually going to turn into pneumonia. And for some, it's going to be deadly. So we have that problem around mental illness, is that if we normalize it and we make it that it's okay to have one because it happens, but we don't take that next step and help people understand that yes, it's okay to have one, but you got to do something about it. You've got to pay attention to it. You've got to talk to somebody. You've got to make sure we're checking in on it, because we need to make sure it doesn't get worse on you, like that cold turning into pneumonia. So I find hope that we're talking more about these issues, because I think it's bringing these kinds of things up. And I think it is helping people better understand that these illnesses exist. We need to do more of that. And the more of that we do, the more hopeful I'm going to be.
And that's, thanks so much for sharing that perspective. I never looked at it that way, and it is so true. So thanks for, as we're learning and as we're growing, I'm constantly challenging myself, to learn and to educate myself more. I mean, we've done the mental health first aid. We've tried to do as many trainings as we can, just continue to be engaged. And I constantly am talking with others and telling others the importance of getting these trainings, which can be free in so many areas, are available all across the country. And so I think as we are more educated, and I, again, just really thank you for sharing that perspective on of what I said earlier in the conversation, because that makes complete sense. and it is so important that we are working through it and not just staying in that situation, but getting the help that we need. So as we educate ourselves and as we, as a society, talk more about this, I think we can remove stigma that's out there, and that we can be healthier, all of us as human beings. What can the average person do to help others in these difficult times?
That's a great question. So this might sound strange, but I think the very first thing you need to do is take care of yourself. When we don't take care of ourselves, we're not able to actually help others. So that's not about being selfish at all. That is about doing what's right. So the more we can take care of ourselves, make sure we're okay and we're on track and doing well, then we can offer help to other people. We've had a rough last year, right? Obviously, with the pandemic, the riots and the violence, we had a lot of turmoil over the election, politics, and fears, just general fears about what was going to happen to us and to those we cared about because of COVID. So it's been a very difficult time for all of us, and we need to pay attention to that. But in terms of doing something about that, I think that's the key. If we get stuck in it, we can't not only help others, but we're not going to get out of it. So we need to be able to deal with these difficult times. We've got to offer ourselves to other people. So when we're doing well, we need to offer them a lending hand. So can I carry your groceries? Can I pick up groceries for you? That's one way of helping others. One way is just about reaching out and calling and texting and emailing and going on Facebook and just putting out a message to somebody you haven't talked to or somebody you might be worried about. Just making that connection really helps people in these difficult times. Another thing that we can do in difficult times, again, when we're doing well, right, is to put out positive energy. The more that we can put that out to the world, those who really need to feel it, sense it, get it from us, they will. It can just emanate from us. And so now that's hard, right? If you're sick with the flu, it's pretty hard to be positive. But if you're not and you're taking care of yourselves and you're doing well, put out positive vibes. Put out messages on Facebook that are really positive. It doesn't have to be about anything in specific. Just, hey, the sun came up today and I'm so thrilled I get to look at it. Whatever we can do to get these positive energy out helps other people. It really does benefit people in a difficult time. Another thing that's really important in times like this is knowing resources. Some of them we talked about. Knowing where there are resources helps people. when we are in difficult times, much like when somebody has a mental health issue that's really just kind of wrapped around them, they don't see options. They don't see different opportunities. They see just a couple or sometimes one or two or maybe three. We want to provide them more. So it's like those different buckets of people we talked about, right? Just open up opportunities for people. Let them know where they can go, who they can talk to, what they can get, what's available to them. The more we can give them, the more benefit that they're going to get, because right now they may not be seeing it. So I think those are the kinds of things that really help and provide real strong benefits to people in difficult times. I think the last thing I'd say is it kind of goes to your previous question, and it's about hope. We have to find a way to always have hope, no matter how dark it is. We have to know there's hope. There is something more. There is something greater. There is something that is going to get us through. When we lose that hope is when someone like me gets very worried about somebody that I'm hearing about or working with or talking to, right? When they've lost that hope that anything can help them. So all of us have the ability and the chance to give hope, to let them know that there is something more, and to be patient and to be kind to yourself and to be kind to everybody else who might be struggling right now. Offer that hope that things can get better. Tomorrow, no matter how bad it is today, tomorrow is going to come. And it is going to be different than today. I don't care how much it feels very much the same. It is going to be a different day. And in it being a different day means there's new chances, new opportunities. And so that's what hope is about, is that there is possibility of something else. So no matter how bad somebody might feel right at this moment in time, there's always something that is going to happen that can get you to where you want to go. You got to be open to that. You got to have people around you that'll help you see that. You got to follow them. You got to let some other people lead you at times. We got to know that there is something greater that helps us get through times when we can't. And that's what hope is.
That's awesome. Hope is so powerful, and I know that firsthand in my situation and story, and that's it's my favorite word. So I'm so grateful that you talk about that, and that kind of really you kind of answered really the next question, but I'd still like to ask it, because if there is someone today listening that is feeling that hopelessness, is feeling that today is their last day, or that they just can't go on, just again, what is your advice to them, and what would you say to them?
If somebody were listening to this and they were struggling with, is today it for me? Is today going to be my last day? Should it be my last day? I'd say to them, don't think about today. Let's think about tomorrow. Let's think about tomorrow. Let's think about what could be. And I know how hard it could be to think about what could be. But let's try that. Let's try to envision something different than what you're in right now. Being where you're at right now probably doesn't feel very good. It might hurt. It might hurt intensely. You might have agony and utter pain, and you might be saying, I can't take it anymore. I don't want to take it anymore. I don't want to do this. I get it. I get that that might be where you're at. But if we could at least get you to say, for 30 minutes, for 15 minutes, give me 5 minutes to put that pain aside for 5 minutes and say, let me think about what tomorrow could be. Just give us that opportunity. That gives us a chance, a window of opportunity. Now, that person might say to me, what I see tomorrow is more of today. And I'll say, then let's look at the next day. Let's keep looking. Because the more we keep looking for things, the more we have an opportunity to see something that we don't right now. I would say to that person who is really struggling right now and thinking that I just can't do this anymore, I'd say, think about what you can't do. You've been doing it. You've done it. You've done it. You are still here. It can't get worse than this. If that's what you're thinking now, that today is my last day, it can't get worse. And you've survived already. Let's take that to the next level and let's get you through and thriving again, because that is possible. The last thing I would say to somebody who is really having a hard time right now is I would say, it may be bad. It might be bad. It's going to be really bad for those that are left behind if you're not here. People need you. People want you here. And they would do anything to help you through this moment. I know it. I've lived it in my life. I live it every day. And people that call me and they say to me, why didn't he call me? If he just would have called me, I would have done anything, gone anywhere, said anywhere, anything. How come they just didn't text me? I know that if you're struggling right now and you're not here tomorrow, somebody's going to call me and they're going to say, how come they didn't reach out? Because I would have done anything. So just know that you matter a lot to people. Might be in a lot of pain, but there are people that want to help you get through it. And some are professionals, and some are family, and some are friends, and some are people that are at a restaurant that you go to and order food from that you don't even know are going to say the right thing at the right moment in the right way. And you're going to think to yourself, wasn't expecting that, but I'm sure glad I got it. And that gives me till tomorrow. That's what I'd say to somebody who's really struggling right now.
That is so powerful, and it's so true. I in the work that we do, I hear that all the time, and it just breaks my heart because I know that people feel like nobody cares about them, and that's not the truth. There are so many people that love you and care about you and want to help. And so thank you so much, Dr. Dan Reidenberg. It has been, I just am so excited for how many people are going to watch this and be inspired and be helped and really see that there is hope and the importance of resilience and where those resources are. And so if you're watching today, I'm going to put all of the information for SAVE in the description box. We'll also put some of those resources that he talked about down below. So please click on them. Please avail yourself to them because they're available. And that is how we get through. That is how, I just know I would not be where I am today without all the resources of my family, my support team, of medication, of counseling, of professional help. And there's no shame in it. We have to know that it's okay to reach out. That actually, somebody just told me a couple of months ago, they said, reaching out for help is actually a sign of strength, not weakness. And that just helped me so much because then I share that whenever I speak now, because we have to know, for some reason, we think that it's weak to ask for help, but it's not. It's actually such strength and courage that it takes to reach out. And yet the benefits and the help that we receive is so worth it. And so thank you again so much for your time, Dr. Dan. And for those of you who are listening, please comment, please let us know how you were helped today. And please share this. Please share this with someone that you know that's struggling, that could really benefit from this, or has a loved one that's struggling, because that's why we do this. Is we want to help others. We want to help people get through these difficult times. We want to help people know that there's hope. And so thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.